The vast majority of people that have come to gather have been doing so peacefully.
Peaceful protest overnight in the Twin Cities, several dozen arrests at the state capitol. But
that entire time, they've been very peaceful. The crowd continues to be peaceful.
And the two men most responsible for the mostly peaceful protest are sticking together. And why wouldn't they? Tim Walz endorses Mayor Jacob Frey for Minneapolis Mayor over DFL-backed Fateh as election gains national attention. The Minneapolis DFL endorsed Senator Omar Fateh for mayor, but Mayor Jacob Frey has asked the state DFL party to nullify that endorsement, citing problems at the city convention. The story goes into Governor Walz endorsing Jacob Frey. Mayor Frey is a partner that I can trust to actually deliver progressive policies that improve people's lives. These two men are responsible for the Summer of Love. For the mass global protests, the violent aspect of those protests is directly on the laps of Jacob Frey and mostly Tim Walz. And I intend to make that case to you today with a timeline, a video, a little bit of history, and then just some dates. Let's get started.
Our CBS Confirmed team has mapped out just how long it took him to bring the National Guard into Minnesota during the public outrage. CBS Minnesota reporter Jennifer Merrily explains those findings.
The National Guard called into Minneapolis tonight after protests turned violent.
These were the scenes that gripped America after the murder of George Floyd at the hands of Minneapolis police. Floyd was murdered on Monday, May 25th, 2020, and the video of his death was posted online early Tuesday. Hours later, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz called the video sickening, and the first day of protests began.
I also strongly support the rights of those to peacefully protest.
Walz addressed the protests in his COVID briefing the next day.
I was saddened to see that some of the protesters were in harm's way last night, and I just want to encourage everyone to be safe, especially in light of the COVID-19 pandemic.
CBS Minnesota obtained text messages between Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey's staff that show the police chief asked the mayor to call in the National Guard.
Wednesday, May 27th, 6:26 p.m. That's the time of this text chain. That is very relevant, in my opinion, to what my theory and my conclusion is here. That's very relevant. 6:26 p.m., May 27th, Wednesday, May 27th.
Minnesota's Republican-led Senate issued a report months later that shows just 1 minute after those texts were sent, the mayor spoke to Governor Walz on the phone, and Frey said he asked for that support. Later that night, a text from one of the mayor's staffers said he heard the governor was hesitating to call in the Guard. Walz and Frey disagreed over their conversations. The same Senate report said police sent a written request for the Guard up the chain to the state's Commissioner of Public Safety. Meanwhile, on the streets, chaos continued. Walz urged people to go home, calling the situation extremely dangerous. The next morning, the mayor's office sent Walz an official written request for the National Guard.
10:55 a.m. Thursday morning. Now remember, he was asked at 6:29 the previous evening. The timeline is very relevant here.
5 hours later, and almost 24 hours after the initial call from Mayor Frey, Walz signed the executive order.
4:04 p.m. Thursday. Again, the timeline here is very relevant.
That night, the Guard said it activated more than 500 soldiers to Minneapolis and surrounding areas. Critics, including Republicans in the Minnesota Senate, say Walz didn't act fast enough to stop the destruction in Minneapolis, including protesters who set fire to the 3rd Police Precinct.
If the issue is that the state should have moved faster, that is on me.
Governor Walz also described a more philosophical question he faced. Would putting additional troops on the ground help or hurt the already volatile situation?
We're not going to restore peace on our streets by having a bigger group of National Guard show up.
But as protests continued, more National Guard troops were brought in. And on Saturday, Walz mobilized the full Minnesota National Guard for the first time since World War II. By Sunday, more than 7,000 National Guard members were on duty. As the 2024 president.
And peace to the streets was restored. Imagine that. A larger National Guard presence actually restored peace to the streets. Who would have thunk it? Weird that. Now, you heard the timeline. Very important here, because now we're going to get into the fall of the 3rd Precinct. That's the title of this segment of the video, The Fall of Minneapolis, done by Alpha News. I would hope everybody has a chance to watch the video, The Fall of Minneapolis from Alpha News. It is an in-depth journalistic look into the entire events following the George Floyd incident, the riots following, and the political aftermath. But what's important is the fall of the 3rd Precinct itself. And I'm going to run this only citing some timeline stuff, because no army in history has won by retreating. And for a major metropolitan police force to be seen worldwide running from rioters, abandoning their position and having it burnt to the ground, was the trigger for everything that followed. And I'm going to prove that with dates.
Our heart and our solidarity are with folks who understand what happened Monday night to George Floyd.
The vast majority of people that have come together have been doing so peacefully.
Peaceful protest overnight in the Twin Cities, several dozen arrests at the state capitol. But
that entire time, they've been very peaceful. The crowd continues to be peaceful.
It started out as a lot of people gathering, which is, your First Amendment right, but it quickly changed.
My husband actually left for work before me. He works for Minneapolis Police Department, and he texted me on the way into work and said, "You're gonna have a bad day," and he was correct. The crowds got larger and larger and larger, so we knew that we were gonna have our hands full.
Each day it just compounded. By the end of the day, it was probably 1,000 people. And then the next day it was 4,000 people. And then the day after that, it was like 8,000 to 10,000 people. I think it's really important for people to understand that the police that were working the street at that time were dealing with situations that, in my mind, only you can think of as wartime.
This is like a modern day war zone. I mean, this is unbelievable what is happening on the streets of Minneapolis.
So we're seeing someone being wheeled away, someone who looks pretty badly injured.
They threw a whole bunch of bottles and rocks, and I got hit in my mouth. I ended up breaking 3 more teeth.
Break that shit!
We were dodging water bottles, bricks, Roman candles, anything they could get their hands on.
It was crazy. It was like I was living in a third world country. I'm like, what is going on? Where do I live right now? Hey! And this is a thing that bothered me about government officials, is they let people sit back and throw rocks and bricks and firebombs, and we're supposed to just put on a helmet and take that.
We are still taking rocks, frozen water bottles. They're shooting mortars at us. Can we escalate our use of force to deploy scat rounds?
1204, negative on the scat round. 1204, again, negative on the scat round. There's another plan in place, standby.
When did you realize this wasn't a typical riot response?
Pretty early on, there was no response at all. They didn't say why, but I assumed they didn't want to make us look militant with the rioters. I actually had gear, but they were just saying, just wear your helmets and stand there, basically.
Obviously, they didn't take my request for more resources seriously, so we were just watching it unfold without less than lethal, without SWAT teams, without riot gear. Nobody had protective gear on. We were just in our uniforms.
At this point, they're not giving you permission to wear your riot gear?
No, there was no riot gear given to anybody at that point, and we're in the middle of a war zone. It was just officer after officer. Injured, back in. Send them home. Injured. I mean, it was 30 officers that evening probably that got injured while they were out there trying to deal with the riots.
We were in a squad car, me and my partner, and we were at Chicago and Lake. And we had a observe and report post, basically. So we watched them with our own two eyes break into the T-Mobile store, Foot Locker, Chicago Lake Liquors. And we were given a play-by-play over the radio. And the only sponsor we would get back is just copy, observe, and report. We watched them loot, we watched them light the Molotov cocktail, and we watched them throw it into the building.
They're starting to throw Molotov cocktails.
We were ordered not to do anything.
Fire department wasn't responding, and we were trying to put out fires along, and cars were trying to run us off the road when we were trying to do that. All kinds of things were happening to our team. And it wasn't just me, but all the strike teams and all the officers during that time. The stuff that was going on, shots fired. It was complete, utter chaos.
This was just kind of wandering around aimlessly, waiting to be told what not to do next.
Did you ever feel like there was a plan?
I am reaching to the command post over and over again about what's our plan, without any response whatsoever.
They're not saying anything at all?
No, nothing.
Command post, you copy? Command, can you advise?
The elections were coming up. Everything's politically driven. They were going to use this incident for a political narrative, and they did.
It started with the tragic and senseless murder of George Floyd, and it extended through the week of righteous anger being expressed by community leaders and all people of conscience.
If you're feeling that sadness and that anger, it's not only understandable, it's right.
I end up on the phone with the assistant chief. He's like, so our plan is we're going to take all the squad cars and everything around and make the precinct look abandoned. And if no one's there, it shouldn't be a target. And I'm literally just staring at the phone like, this, how is this the plan? Like, there's thousands of protesters. There's thousands of rioters. They have dead pigs in front of us. That signifies they will kill a cop.
We were tasked to go down to the precinct to remove all of the shotguns and patrol rifles and ammunition from the precinct. When I got down there, you would swear it was kids moving out of college dormitory because there was moving trucks and everything out back. Literally emptying out the precinct.
People were showing up at the precinct, gathering their things. So they'd come through the fence, get let in, go to the locker, grab their stuff, and walk out. And I was like, where are you going? Oh, I'm just coming to get my stuff in case they give away the precinct. Like, it's got our museum stuff. Pretty soon, 2 vans showed up and cleaned out all the museum items.
You're talking 20, 30 years of pictures, artifacts that are on the wall supposed to be for eternity.
So you're a lieutenant in this building, and you don't even know that the plan is to surrender it later in the evening?
No, not even a clue. As they were like cleaning things out, they took all the cameras out because they didn't want the rioters to break them. We're now in a precinct with boarded up windows. I could tell what was going on outside. I couldn't see it, but you could hear it. You could tell. I knew there were fires. The radio traffic was completely insane. It was fire after fire after fire. The whole city was burning, just like night 1 and night 2.
I do have to say that it almost sounds premeditated when you have them taking cameras and stuff out, it does sound premeditated, knowing that they are just going to abandon the building. It makes you think that this was kind of the plan all along. And in just a moment, we're going to go through some times.
Looks like the U.S. Bank building at 28th and Lake is on fire. Flames above the buildings in front of it.
U.S. Bank at 28th and Lake appears to be on fire.
Large fire east of the 3rd precinct.
Copy, large fire east of the 3rd precinct, 2118.
I was shocked. I said, no way, no fucking way. And the city's not that stupid. They're not going to do that. You can't just give up a precinct. I did not think anybody in their right mind would think it would be a good tactical move to give up a precinct.
I made the decision to evacuate the 3rd precinct.
There you have him making the call, him saying publicly he's the one who makes the decision to abandon the 3rd precinct. Now, we're going to continue. But this is the man that Tim Walz just endorsed. And this is also the man who, unfortunately, given a choice between Omar Fateh and Jacob Frey, this man, who's partially responsible, in my opinion, for the entire 2020 Summer of Love and the momentum felt by us, by the left, that's only been broken in 2024 by the election of Donald Trump. We continue.
When do you get word that it's finally time to leave the building?
So I get a command over the radio that we need to evacuate the 3rd precinct.
Evacuate now, evacuate now.
I said, like, right now?
Do we have to evacuate right now?
And they said, yes, immediately.
You need to evacuate now. Evacuate, evacuate, evacuate.
I have 50-some people. I quickly get on the air and tell everyone to gather in the roll call room. I get a phone call from the head of 911 as I'm trying to do roll call, and she says, our whole 911 backup system is there. You need to go get the radios. And I'm like, okay, so either we're in so much danger that we're trying to evacuate right this second, or we're not. We're going now as fast as we possibly can. A few SWAT teams come in. I realize they are our escort out, and one of the SWAT team leaders looks at me and he says, why are we evacuating? And he's coming from the outside in, and I can't see on the outside of the building, so I'm like, why? And I don't know. He doesn't know. I don't know. We just have to evacuate.
Evacuate now, evacuate now. Time is 21:55. They're both
21:55. 21:55. You heard that.
No, I don't know. We just have to evacuate.
Evacuate now, evacuate now. Time is 21:55.
21:55. So at 9:55 p.m., this is now 5 hours and 51 minutes has passed since the time Tim Walz has activated the National Guard. And it's 24 hours, 22 hours, I'll be specific, 22 hours from the time he was asked by the mayor, Jacob Frey, for the National Guard. So that hesitation of 22 hours, in my opinion, is now leading to the evacuation and destruction of the 3rd precinct of the Minneapolis Police Department. And what you're about to witness is what was witnessed worldwide, showing that the police will run if you force them to. Not only did they run, they ended up taking a knee. Again, most of them were ordered to do so, but we can see where we are and where we were. We continue.
They're about to breach the back gate.
Everything was happening so fast and there was such chaos. You know, the heart's racing right now talking about this.
And we run. We run with our belts on and 50-some people and 3 SWAT teams, and we get to the fence. We can't get out.
We gotta go. We're sitting ducks here.
There was only one way in and one way out, and the way out was locked.
1283, they breached the northwest corner of the front. Northwest corner of the front has been breached. They're coming in the back. We need to move, Need to move now.
One of the squads rams through the fence to get it open.
And these scenes were broadcast worldwide. I wanted to mute this, and what he's discussing is what you're seeing. The scenes you're seeing are responsible for the Summer of Love, and they are directly the responsibility of the person who hesitated. Look at these scenes.
Window got broken out of the squad car, driving the gauntlet down Snowden.
Can you even believe this is happening in that moment?
Never seen anything like it. And I'd been involved in a lot of riots over a 30-year career. There were still people chasing us down the street. But as I got maybe a quarter block away, I realized that not everyone was in vehicles. They were running basically for their lives at that point because they just left them basically with no plan of attack or no plan of exit from the precinct. Just basically left us all on our own.
They were scared. I could see it. I knew them.
I can't even tell you how it felt in the pit of my stomach, watching my friends run for their lives. It was something I hope to never experience again.
We ran probably 4 or 5 blocks, and eventually 2 buses show up. We get on, and it was just pure silence.
And why wouldn't it be pure silence? You're in absolute disbelief at what just happened. You were ordered to abandon your precinct the first time in American history, and those scenes were broadcast worldwide. This could have been prevented had Tim Walz not hesitated the night that Mayor Frey had asked for him. You would have had 22 hours to be able to deploy forces into the Twin Cities that would have been able to relieve law enforcement to give backup to the Minneapolis Police Department in order to get to the 3rd precinct. You do not... Armies in history that retreat are decimated. This is just a fact. And what you witnessed here is essentially an army retreating and broadcast for the world to see. This is why Tim Walz and Jacob Frey, in my opinion, are responsible for the entire 2020 global protests and riots. The damage, destruction, injuries, and death that were caused from it could have been prevented had there been a little bit of forthright initiative taken, and there was none. It's sad. And then to say that Jacob Frey is the best choice you have in the city of Minneapolis is frightening.
I've never cried at work, and I couldn't control myself. I apologized to them. All I could do is say, I'm sorry, and they were like, this is not you. And I felt like I didn't save the precinct. I let them all down. I let all them down. And I just looked out the window, and the whole city was on fire. Our precinct was on fire. And it was just like I'm watching a bad dream.
Copy, the precinct is on fire.
Get a citywide tone right now in our loss of the 3rd precinct.
Airing information citywide. The 3rd precinct has been compromised.
And to this day, today, the 3rd precinct is a hulk. They haven't replaced it. They haven't rebuilt it. It is still a burnt out, boarded up, chain linked off shell in Minneapolis. I've driven past it 3 times this year for work. It's absolutely incredible that this is still the way it is. This is a picture I took of the burnt out 3rd precinct. I kind of thought you might want to see that, but that's what it looks like today. Well, not today. This was in January. But I also took a picture of it in May. It still looks exactly the same. Nothing has changed. That's your city, Jacob Frey. That's your city, Tim Walz. That's your state. Now, I promised I would show why they are responsible for the entire Summer of Love, the protests and the riots, the destruction, crime, deaths and destruction, injuries. I lay personally, in my opinion, just strictly my opinion, at their feet. Now, remember the timeline here. May 27th, Jacob Frey asked for the National Guard at 6:29 p.m. Tim Walz approves the National Guard on May 28th at 4:04 p.m. The abandonment of the 3rd Precinct was officially ordered at 9:55 p.m. And we saw those videos of the police running for their lives. Those were broadcast across the world on CNN, MSNBC, Unicorn Riot, all over Twitter, all over YouTube. We all saw it. We all saw it. And that just empowered. Here's the list. On May 31st, around 1,000 people gathered and police ended up firing tear gas. In Alaska, on May 30th. Through June in Arizona, but beginning on May 28th. On May 30th, hundreds of people in Little Rock participated, which ended up being responded to with tear gas. Protests through June 15th in at least 171 cities in California, including Los Angeles, San Francisco, you name it. On May 28th, in Denver, May 29th. This is, again, remember our timeline here. May 28th, the evening of May 28th is when the precinct was burnt and the police were seen to run. So everything after 10 p.m. Central Standard Time, May 28th, is something that has been witnessed by the vast majority of people. Remember our timeline. Connecticut, on May 29th, hundreds of people protested. Delaware, May 31st, resulting in roads being closed. District of Columbia, I think we can all recall what happened in D.C. after the evening of the 29th. Tear gas, rubber bullets, police, National Guard, all kinds of fun stuff. Florida, multiple protests in Jacksonville, Fort Lauderdale, Miami, Tampa. The governor activated the National Guard on the 31st. Georgia, May 29th. Hundreds of protesters in Atlanta. I think we can remember that there was a lot of issues in Atlanta that actually ended up, there were issues there caused by another police shooting the next day. I actually remember that. Hawaii, protests began on May 30th. Idaho, from May 30th to the 1st. Illinois, that means Chicago, saw at least 1,000 demonstrators in St. Charles. We saw it in Chicago. Indiana, several protests, riots. In Iowa, protests were held. Kansas, 10 consecutive days. Kentucky, and then we get into the Breonna Taylor thing too. That just amplified it there. May 31st, hundreds have walked through New Orleans, ended up being police tear gas, rubber bullets. In Maine, Maryland, Baltimore known for its calm times. On Sunday, May 31st, 3 large protests began peacefully, but violence broke out by midnight. Pepper spray, rubber bullets, and batons. Michigan, Detroit, Grand Rapids escalated into riots and looting and arson. Minneapolis, need I say more? Mississippi on Friday, May 29th, several Jacksonville, Missouri, St. Louis, The list goes on and on. New York, you recall what happened in New York. My God, Manhattan became almost a war zone. Tear gas, rubber bullets, looting, rioting. Absolutely. We can all, and let's just go back to Washington because that'll be the most fun. Y'all remember Chaz? Do y'all remember the Chaz? The Chaz, the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone. All of that. The momentum of the left after this led to the 2020 election results, the cancel culture, the censorship was just amplified. The left felt super empowered, and we felt it. And all of that, all of it, is traced back to the fall of the 3rd Precinct and Tim Walz and Jacob Frey. That's it. That's what I'm saying. The fall of the 3rd Precinct led to all of the riots, all of the protests, the death and destruction. And the men responsible for it, well, they're sticking together. And why wouldn't they stick together? Walz endorses Frey for Minneapolis Mayor over DFL-backed Fateh as election gains national attention. I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised. And as we end this video, and this is the end of the video, I want to also predict that Tim Walz, who will run for a 3rd term in Minnesota, will also face a challenger. I'm putting it on the record. I think his challenger will be Keith Ellison. And I think Keith Ellison will win. Because I don't know what it's like in most other states, but I can tell you this. In Minnesota, the only reason the Democrats run a candidate against you is because you aren't left enough. Tim Walz' endorsement of Jacob Frey will signal to the far left in this state that he's not left enough. Mark my words. I hope you liked this video. If you did, hit like, subscribe, share with a friend. Let them know that Tim and Jacob, they're going to go down together. And I think they're both going to go down. Thank you.